The golden rays of the late afternoon sun streaked through the park, casting a warm glow over the lively scene. Children darted about playing tag. Joggers passed with the rhythmic pound of their feet on the paved trails, and couples strolled hand in hand, their laughter mingling with the gentle sound of the fountain. Amid this idyllic backdrop, Michael Williams walked home from work, enjoying the brief reprieve from the day's stresses. As he approached a bench near the fountain, a glint of light caught his attention. Sitting there, seemingly forgotten, was a sleek black leather purse. Michael's brows furrowed as he glanced around, scanning the area for its owner. No one appeared to be searching for it. He hesitated, his instincts battling against the lessons of a world that often judged actions before understanding intent. Letting out a sigh, he picked up the purse carefully by its strap and held it up as he called out, "Excuse me, did someone leave this?" A man walking by shook his head and continued on. A woman jogging past glanced at him but offered no response. Michael stood there, uncertain, the purse dangling conspicuously from his hand. Just as he considered setting it back down, he spotted a woman pacing near the edge of the park. Her blonde hair was tied back, and her body language was tense. She gestured wildly, her lips moving as though she were muttering or calling out. That must be her, Michael thought, and he started walking toward her. "Excuse me, ma'am," he called when he got close enough. "I think you left this behind." The woman, Lindsay Carter, turned sharply. Relief flashed across her face for an instant as her eyes locked on the purse. Then her expression twisted into suspicion. "That's my purse," she snapped, lunging forward and snatching it from his grasp. "What are you doing with it?" Michael took a step back, startled. "I found it on a bench," he began to explain, but she cut him off. "Don't you dare lie to me," she shouted, clutching the purse to her chest. "You stole it, didn't you?" Michael blinked, his confusion giving way to frustration. "No, I didn't," he said firmly. "I was just trying to help." "Help?" Lindsay's voice rose, shrill enough to turn heads. "I know what you were doing. You were rummaging through it, deciding what to take." Michael raised his hands in a placating gesture, his patience thinning. "Look, lady, I didn't even open it," he said. "I was trying to return it to you." "Thief!" she spat, her voice echoing across the park. More people began to notice, their murmurs building like static electricity. A jogger paused mid-stride, earbuds dangling as she watched. A mother pulling a wagon full of toddlers stopped, her brows furrowed in concern. Michael sighed, realizing he was losing the battle of perception. "Ma'am," he said, keeping his tone calm but firm. "I don't know what you think happened, but I was just trying to do the right thing." Lindsay scoffed. "Do you think I'm stupid? You're just mad because I caught you before you could get away with it." Michael let out a sharp breath, his frustration bubbling over. "You didn't catch me doing anything," he replied. "I was handing it back to you. Why would I stick around if I was trying to steal it?" Lindsay took a step closer, pointing an accusatory finger at his chest. "Because you wanted to play the hero," she said, her voice dripping with derision. "You've probably done this before. Pretend to help so no one suspects you. I've seen this trick." Michael shook his head in disbelief. "Lady, I don't even know you," he said. "I was trying to help." "That's what they always say," she shot back, her voice climbing in pitch. "You people think you can get away with anything." Michael froze, her words hitting him like a slap. "Excuse me," he said, his voice hardening. Lindsay's lips curled into a smug smile, emboldened by the murmurs of some onlookers. "Oh, don't play dumb," she sneered. "You know exactly what I mean." Michael's jaw tightened as he took a step back, raising his hands. "You're really going there," he said, his voice sharp now. "You're accusing me of stealing and throwing in stereotypes to justify it, and you think that makes you right?" Lindsay's face flushed red. Whether from anger or embarrassment was hard to tell. "I don't have to explain myself to you," she snapped. "I know a thief when I see one." The crowd grew thicker, their whispers buzzing louder. A young man with a smartphone discreetly aimed his camera at the unfolding drama. Another bystander, a gray-haired man leaning on a cane, shook his head. "Let the man speak." "Lady," he muttered. Michael turned to the onlookers, his frustration spilling over. Does this make sense to anyone? He asked, his voice rising. Why would I bring the purse back if I was trying to steal it? He's got a point, the young man with the phone said aloud. Lindsay glared at him. Stay out of this. You don't know what he's capable of. What I'm capable of? Michael snapped, his voice rising for the first time. Are you even listening to yourself? All I did was try to help. And now you're dragging me through this circus. Lindsay clutched her purse tighter, her knuckles white. You had no right to touch my property. Who knows what you were planning to do? Michael let out a bitter laugh, shaking his head. Next time, I'll leave it where I found it. Maybe then you'll have someone real to blame. The tension reached a boiling point as Lindsay raised her voice again. You're not going anywhere, she screamed. I'm calling the police. Michael froze, his stomach dropping. You're serious? He asked incredulously. You're really calling the cops on me for trying to help you? Yes, I am, Lindsay said, fumbling with her phone. Let them sort this out. Michael folded his arms, his expression incredulous. Good, he said. Maybe they'll be reasonable enough to see how ridiculous this is. Lindsay dialed with trembling fingers, her words sharp and deliberate as she spoke into the phone. Yes, officer. I need help, she said. There's a man here. He tried to steal my purse. He's being aggressive, and I don't feel safe. Michael's jaw clenched as he caught the murmurs of the crowd. Words like aggressive and unsafe weren't just descriptions, they were weapons. A middle-aged woman with a stroller stepped forward, shaking her head. I saw him pick it up and walk over to you, she said. He didn't do anything wrong. Stay out of this. Lindsay barked. You don't know the whole story. The young man with the smartphone raised his voice. I've got the whole thing on video, he said. You're making a scene over nothing. Lindsay's head snapped toward him, her confidence faltering. You what? She demanded. That's right, he said, holding up his phone. You're not going to spin this. Michael wiped a hand over his face, his anger threatening to spill over. This is unbelievable, he muttered. You just can't admit you're wrong, can you? Lindsay's eyes darted between the crowd and Michael, her bravado slipping. I don't care what any of you say, she spat. I know what I saw, and the police will too. Michael stood firm, his frustration bubbling over. Lady, you're ridiculous, he snapped, his voice cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. You're accusing me of stealing when all I did was try to help you. And now, you're doubling down instead of admitting you were wrong. The sound of sirens grew louder, the flashing lights of a patrol car reflecting in the eyes of the crowd. As the car pulled to a stop, an officer stepped out, scanning the scene. Lindsay rushed forward, eager to tell her version of events. But the truth, captured on camera and witnessed by many, was already unraveling her narrative. What followed was a reckoning, one that would force Lindsay to confront the biases that had shaped her actions and left Michael vindicated but weary. In the end, the park returned to its quiet normalcy, but the lessons learned echoed far beyond its bounds.